Well, Merry Christmas. I'm sure you've all enjoyed quite a day yesterday. You had a chance to get together to celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. And as we had said yesterday, as just a reminder as to what happened yesterday, there's the great story that we all know so well of the angels and the shepherds and all of them who went forth from there to share the good news. But I remind myself, and I especially remind all of you, that when Jesus became human, he did not come amongst us to make us feel good. He came amongst us to make us good. It was a world in darkness, much like the darkness we see around us today. That darkness that seems to be just starting to spread everywhere. And he was the light that came into the world. He was the light that enlightened the hearts of all of the people of his generation. And he enlightens you and me as well. Now today, we kind of jump a little forward in Luke's gospel, and we hear of the Holy Family and Jesus being lost in the temple. And, you know, it's interesting. I always find it very interesting because that particular passage is used as a joyful mystery of the Rosary, but one of Our Lady's Seven Sorrows. So there's that real blend, again, of that light and dark that we talk about. That light and dark. I have to admit, when I was in the seminary, there were certain tools that I wish they had given me in my studies. Because I came out, I was newly ordained, I was sent to a parish, and one of the things that we had done there is a thing called the Family Mass, something that we will eventually be doing here again. But as part of the Family Mass committee, they kept talking about all the varieties of families that we have to represent. And I bought into it. I said, okay, sounds good to me. And so they would be going looking for all these different types of families. And after a while, I just went along with it, and we kept doing it. But there was something in the back of my head, and I was like, but what is wrong with this? Why are we emphasizing broken families? Why are we emphasizing troubled families? Why are we emphasizing all these different types of families? Why don't we try to emphasize family itself? What is family, after all? Well, make a long story short, I got my seminary recall, and they sent me for a doctorate. And while I was doing my doctoral studies, I discovered someone who's absolutely brilliant. And you all know him very well. He's now known as St. John Paul II. I started reading things that he was writing, and first off, I was so lost when I read him. So if you have a little trouble reading him, you're in good company. Don't worry about it. A lot of people had trouble understanding him. But he was writing things even back in the 50s. And one of his seminal works that was phenomenal, but very hard to follow, is a book called Love and Responsibility. See, a lot of people don't know this about him, but he was very, very much in tune with his own culture. And remember, he was growing up in communism. He was very much in tune what was going on with the Marxist revolution in his country, with what they were trying to do and how they were trying to pull things apart. And in this book, he's trying to rehabilitate our understanding of love and the responsibility that comes with it. The title is very obvious, but trust me, reading it is something you really need to spend some time with. Now, he kept working with a group of philosophers in Poland right up until he was elected Pope. And while he was sitting in the conclave for John Paul I, he was putting finishing touches on a book he was about to publish. But he never did publish it because a month later he was back in Rome and became the Pope. And what he decided to do with it was to present it to the entire church at his Wednesday audiences. It's now known as the theology of the body. I present all of this as a background to what I learned from him. One of the tools I was not given is a tool that we use in philosophy called ontology. The study of what things are in themselves before they're messed up by our fallen nature. Now, that's a hard study. It's a hard thing to study because we have to, you take the human person, you take the human being. What is the human being before we fall? So as I look around, I say, well, there's things that people must know. People must know what it means to be a true human being. And sometimes we fall short because we really don't ponder what that means. What did he do? That whole first part of theology of the body, he was reflecting on what it was like before the fall. And it's hard to do because, well, none of us have had that blessed experience of being in paradise. So he had to use his power of reason and his abilities to understand. And as he's doing this, he's presenting this image of man. And what it does is it gives to me and to you something to strive for. See, once I know what it is, once I know my goal, once I'm trying, then I know what I'm trying to achieve. But what was happening, especially I think in the modern world, certainly coming out of a lot of the communist thinking, the socialist thinking, what was coming out of it is what's more important is experience, not God's mind. And so we were experiencing a lot of problems in society. And what did we start doing? We started to affirm them. And then all of a sudden, especially now dating, I read a great book. You can date all the way back to King Henry. The attacks on marriage have been going on for a long, long time. But John Paul II wanted to restore an understanding of what God sees marriage to be, what God sees family to be. And then we tried to strive to achieve that. Now, do we fall short? Of course we do. Of course there's going to be problems. We have a broken nature. It's corrupted. We're sinners. You know, just because we're sinners doesn't mean we have to stay there, but we have to acknowledge that so that we can work on trying to overcome our brokenness. And so when he first was Pope, he established a committee on family and laity in Rome, and he had a synod on the family, and out of that came a beautiful document called Familiaris Consortio. A phenomenal document. That document is a readable one. If you want something to read, that would be one of the ones I recommend. And in the beginning, he speaks of the family going through periods of light and darkness. I mean, you have family life. Families go through periods of light and darkness. There are good times and there are bad times. There are difficult times, there are wonderful times. We go through all of these things. But his point is, within all of this, what's starting to happen is the darkness is basically overtaking. And it's all because within the world that we live, this relativistic, scientific world, experience begins to trump reality. Our experience of brokenness trumps reality. I think it was Christopher West who said it best. What we've tried to do over and over again is normalize our fallen nature. But that's not norm. God established the norm when he created human beings. And what did he create us for? For love. He created Adam and then realized Adam had no equal to love. And so he gives him Eve. And in this beautiful pre-fall experience, Adam and Eve were able to love one another in a very intimate and beautiful way. And as one author who was reflecting on it says, they were truly intimate. For intimacy is into me see. Now, I can speak to all of you about love and life, and I can speak to you all about family and all of these other things. But of all the things that we see, the image that's placed before us that I think is a powerful image is the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. God gave us that norm, if you will, that he wants us to strive for. But once we stopped asking, well, what is a family? What's family about? Well, we stopped striving to try to achieve that. Even though we may fall short, if we don't have a goal to go after, we'll keep falling short and keep falling short. And the brokenness and the cycles will continue to just play. Instead, we're supposed to be breaking the cycles of anxiousness, of anger, of addiction, of all the problems that we're facing nowadays. So John Paul II and Familiaris Consortio used a line that I thought was just magnificent. Families become what you are. Become what you are in the mind of God. Strive for holiness. Strive to become better. Keep working and keep working at it. And one of the things that I know that is so hard, especially nowadays, is family prayer. Of coming together and praying as a family. So many parents tell me, oh, I tried to pray with my kids. They don't pray with us. Or now that they're grown up, they don't even go to church. They don't even like God anymore. They don't believe in God anymore. And that is a struggle, my dear brothers and sisters. But I say this, if Jesus Christ is not at the heart of the family, it can't be a holy family. If Jesus Christ is not at the heart of your family, it can't be a holy family. And that's what we see in today's gospel. Think about Mary and Joseph. Now, you've had children. I mean, you know this better than I do. If you were even walking for 5 minutes and your children disappears while you're in Central Park, you panic. They were going on day 3. Now, husbands and wives, if you were walking together and your child disappeared, how would you be treating each other? You did this. You were supposed to. You weren't taking it. What's wrong with your house? And you would be taking it out on each other, the anxiety and the fear and all of that. But we don't get any of that sense at all from Joseph and Mary. Instead, they regrouped in holiness and said, all right, how are we going to address this? What are we going to do to rectify this? And they went looking for him, didn't find him, and not overly panicked. They go back to Jerusalem, and much to their surprise, there was Jesus. There he was going, what's the big deal? That's the Holy Family. Now, I know that in reality, of course, you wouldn't wait 3 days. It's a whole different world we live in today. But instead of our using opportunities like that to hurt one another, they built each other up. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, is where we are today. It seems to me that too much today, as I've been referring to yesterday, and I'll refer to the rest of this, people must know this is not what God wanted. What we're seeing going on in the world around us is not what God wanted. He doesn't want perpetual attacks on us. He doesn't want you fighting all the time. He doesn't want you, when you don't agree with me, I'm going to besmirch your name. I'm going to tell everybody what a terrible person you are. I'm going to tell all your secrets. He doesn't want that. He wants us to join together in love. And love, my dear brothers and sisters, is a reality that we don't understand because we're not very good at it. It's about uniting my person with yours. But in order to do that, I need to give myself completely to you. So it can't be about me if I am to love you. Because if I make it about me, John Paul II, back when he was writing the book Love and Responsibility, defined the problem in society is if it's only about egoism, if it's only about me first, then love merely becomes a harmonization of egoisms. Well, we're getting along, so everything is okay, therefore we're in love. But that's not love. Because as soon as the harmonization ends, as soon as your child is lost in the temple, boom, it all falls apart because we're not in harmony anymore. Love makes me good, but doesn't always make me feel good. The same thing I say about Jesus Christ. He came not to make me feel good, as much as Christmas has so many good feelings with it, because I'm around my family, because we're loving one another, we're embracing one another, we're gifting one another. I feel good, but that's an effect of the love that makes me good. And that's a huge difference. And I know that this is hard to get. But here we are on the Feast of the Holy Family, able to say, there's something I need to start striving for, and I need to do it first and foremost in the family, because as goes the family, so goes the church, so goes society. As goes the family. If the family's falling apart, society is going to fall apart. The church is going to fall apart. And as I look around me today, I see a lot of things falling apart. I do. I was so upset just a little while ago. I go out to dinner with my buddy, and we're sitting in a restaurant, which is hard to do nowadays because they're probing you and inspecting you and doing all this. But we still got in, and sitting across from us was a table of 5. Looked like a grandmother, mother, father, and 2 children. And of that table of 5, 4 of them, I'm going to say for a good 45 minutes, buried, and poor grandma just sitting there going, that's not love. That's not giving myself to you. It's not being attentive to you. That is an opportunity to sit at a table and to share with one another and to care about one another. And that was missing. And I don't know the family well enough to say what their home life is like or other things. I just saw something as an outsider looking in saying, there's something missing there. There's something awry with that. And if I had to put my finger on it to diagnose it as an outsider, it might be the technology problem. It's become an addiction for people, and that has become more important than the person right in front of you. But for me to love you, I have to completely give myself to you while I'm with you. I have to completely surrender myself to you, and you do the same, and then we can have that communion of persons. It doesn't work any other way that I can tell. And that's why he came and became one of us, to show us the path of love, to show us how we can be a communion of persons, to show us that, yes, it is possible to achieve higher goals. And so let's strive to achieve higher goals. People must know, this is our series now for the season. People must know what God is doing, how much God loves us, how much God is calling us out of the darkness into light, calling us out of that sinfulness that creates darkness and into virtue which sheds light. I don't see very much virtue being exemplified in the media, so I'm going to recommend that in your families you do something. Let's get back to the good old days. Do you have any board games lying around? Maybe decks of cards? Maybe as a family just sit there and enjoy each other's company. Maybe take out your rosary and pray a rosary as a family. Maybe turn off all of the technology for an hour a day and just sit and enjoy one another and get to know one another again and spend time with one another, because that is the hallmark of the Holy Family. And as goes the family, so goes the church, so goes society. So I'm going to give you an acronym today. I've used this many, many times, and I love this acronym. I wish I had invented it, but I didn't, but it's a great acronym. Family, F-A-M-I-L-Y. I can spell. My teachers were very happy about that. F-A-M-I-L-Y. Forget about me, I love you. That's family. God bless you.